Okay, so there's a serious issue with how our culture addresses rape.
Yeah.
Rape culture is incredibly pervasive. We live in a culture that normalizes rape, that sees rape as based on sexual attraction, and a guy just can't help it. There's just so many things that go in with it.
Yeah. Where people are told that they shouldn't try to get raped instead of people being told that they shouldn't rape to begin with.
Yes, victim blaming is an inherent part of supporting rape culture and perpetuating it. And it leads to some really nasty things. It leads to people not being willing to report their rape. It leads to rapists getting away, especially if they are white. It leads to the victim being put on trial way more than the actual rapist. Like, people are so unwilling to look at the rapist's action. Literally, the only thing that all rapes have in common is a rapist. That is who we need to look at.
Yes, we shouldn't be concentrating on what the person who got raped was wearing, or what time they were out, or where they were. That has nothing to do with it. If that person was raped, it is not their fault.
These rape prevention tips that go around, they don't work. People are raped of all ages, of all behaviors, of all drinking status, sobriety status. Like, everybody is at risk. And it's not based on a woman's behavior whether she gets raped.
And she shouldn't feel guilty about that afterwards. She was hurt, and it had nothing to do with her at all.
Seriously, rape already tears up a person's entire life. We do not need to make it worse by blaming her for it. Another serious issue that happens with sex is sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment comes in tons of forms. It's not only
it's all about
touched, it could be anything. It could be anything that makes someone feel uncomfortable.
It's all about males' entitlement to female bodies. Like, men have been told their entire lives that if they do this, they'll get the girl. The girl is a prize that they must win. And that manifests in men feeling really entitled to women's bodies. These women's bodies are not their own, and sexual harassment is entirely about reminding women of that. Reminding women that their bodies are never actually their own. They are society's to judge
and to objectify.
Dictate, to objectify. Objectification is a huge way that we sell products in this culture. We sell things with women's bodies. We sell ideas with women's bodies. We sell stories with women's bodies. Women's bodies are always being cut up or dehumanized in order to sell something. And it's a serious problem. Okay, so women are not allowed to show emotion in any way.
Or else they're seen as overly emotional crybabies who just explode in their feelings.
Depending on the emotion. If it's sadness, they're a crybaby. They can't handle anything. No. They're clearly going to cry the moment anything goes wrong.
Delicate psyche.
If they're angry, they're a catty bitch. They are just so overreacting. There's not actually a problem. They need to calm down. If they are confused, then it's because women don't get anything, and they just need to sit with that and accept that that's part of being a woman, because women are just automatically unintelligent. It just goes with having womanness.
And men aren't allowed to feel anything either. Men are supposed to be. Yes, they're allowed to feel
They're allowed to feel
angry.
Anger. This is the thing that most fascinates me about it, is that when men are angry, they are in control. They are doing it. They are not letting anyone mess with them. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing for men to be angry. When women are angry, they are catty bitches and overreacting, no matter what the actual problem is. Men are allowed to feel jealousy too.
Yes, that
jealousy
also adds to the whole feeling of dominance. And men are not allowed to openly look sad. They're not allowed to look vulnerable in any way, or else it's considered unmasculine.
Yeah,
because that's just what a woman's supposed to do.
It's really important that we look at how sexism affects men, but we need to differentiate that between men experiencing backlashes from sexism and men experiencing sexism. There is no sexism against men. Let's make that clear. Men experience backfire from the patriarchy, but there is no oppressive system in place that is oppressing men. But they do experience some major backlash from patriarchy, and it does suck.
Yeah, it really could mess with a person's head a lot.
Yeah, but it's important to look at the roots of these. For instance, men aren't allowed to be sad and be emotional because that's a feminine thing. And it's because they're seen as lowering themselves to the position of a woman. It's not because there's something in place saying that men, are this. It's because men are not supposed to lower themselves to the position of being feminine, because that is bad.
It's being feminine is weakness, and so men aren't allowed to be feminine and therefore be seen as weak.
Yeah. It's important to look at the fact that the root of the men can't be emotional thing is a hatred of femininity, not a hatred of men. Okay, so the way that masculinity has been created under this society is kind of not good. Our entire concept of masculinity is based on power. It's based on dominance. It's based on forcing everyone to be submissive to the man. And it's a really violent way of structuring masculinity.
And it's very intimidating for women or for anyone, actually, that has to be underneath that power.
Yeah, our entire concept of masculinity is based on violence. It's based on praising violence and praising being angry, competitive, jealous, always wanting to get on top. To the point where the moment a woman stands up for herself and refuses to be submissive, she's seen as masculine.
When a woman tries to get into a position of power or compete in a sport that's male-dominated, she's seen as being unfeminine because women aren't supposed to be like that.
Yeah, women are not supposed to compete in any way. Competing is what men do. Women sit around and gossip, basically.
Get the chips for the guys watching a football game.
But the fact that our entire concept of masculinity is revolved around violence is a really horrible thing, because we already live in a culture where violence against women is an incredibly pervasive way that women are forced to submit to sexism. Women are threatened with rape the moment they speak up. They are threatened with rape. They are threatened with death. The moment women say something that is going against the patriarchy, they are shut down with incredibly violent and misogynistic threats. And that has a lot to do with the way that we have structured violence and masculinity in our culture. Feminism has a long, long history of being just sort of horrible, and none of the problems with feminism has to do with being man-hating bitches. If that's the problem with feminism that you think is happening, then you just need to stop, because you're being misogynistic fuckhead.
Feminism in theory is really cool. I mean, everyone wants women empowerment and all that, but it just depends how you go about doing it.
The problem with a lot of feminist movements, both current and past, is that they really only care about white, able-bodied, straight,
economically
cis,
privileged,
etc. women who literally only experience oppression on the gender level, and that's it. If they experience any intersectional experiences at all, then they just sort of get shoved under the rug, because that's inconvenient and it complicates things.
But it is complicated, so...
It is very complicated, but we need to be fighting for all women. If we're gonna make feminism something that is useful in any way, we need to be intersectional. We need to be fighting for all women. We need to be fighting for women of color, trans women, disabled women,
economically underprivileged women,
queer women. Every woman needs the support of feminism, and right now they're not getting it, except from a select few number of feminists. It's for this reason that the womanist movement was born. So a lot of black women specifically wanted to separate themselves from feminism but still being fighting for women. They just didn't want to be fighting for only white women. So they created the womanism movement. Now, by drawing attention to womanist movement, I don't want to be rolling out the welcome mat, because the womanist movement is not a movement for every woman. It is a movement for black women. It was created for a black woman, by a black woman, and we are not invited to intrude on that space if we are not a black woman.
We're just saying it's a cool movement.
Yeah, so they're doing a lot of great things, and a lot of feminists of color have done a lot of really great things of bringing important attention to intersectionality and stuff. Which is something that we really, really need to be fighting for in the feminist movement. We need to clean up our shit.
Yes.
So, positive corner.
Positive corner.
There's a lot of things going on that are great in the sexism movement right now. Anti-sexism movement.
People see sexism as screwed, so they want to make things
But
step on.
what I want to highlight right now is some parodies going around of Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines video. For those who haven't seen the video, you should look it up. It's awful.
Yeah.
It features a bunch of men in suits surrounded by women naked, parading and dancing around and being toys.
Yeah,
for
pretty much a bunch
them
of
to
men
look at.
objectifying naked women.
Yeah. It has slightly misogynistic lyrics, and then they decided to just go all out with the video. So there's been a few parodies that have shown up, and there's two that I want to highlight in the positive corner today, and those are below. One is a gender reversal, and the other is one that specifically addressed the rather rapey lyrics and talks about it in terms of consent. So,
I mean,
those are below, resources below, you know the deal?
comment.
Comment. Please comment. We're going to be responding to comments. We really want to know what you guys are thinking.
Yep. See you next week.
See you next week to talk about cis sexism.